Welcome to our today's session about resilience. Before we step into the concept, just let me mention that we have a special attitude to deal with this, which is more about finding your own resources, being more playful, and so have some kind of a fun factor or like basic happiness attitude, basic positive attitude about this. This refers pretty much to the conference that was just in Heidelberg the last few days, which was about purpose, resilience, and how to deal with this. And major topic of all of these conference papers and all these ideas that people presented there was you should be connected to people you can really rely on, and you should focus on yourself in a way that's more positive and also related to flow and happiness. And that's what I like to talk about today, also to connect it with the idea of the hero's journey and to find your own way to do what you're really meant to be, which some people also call genius and we call genio. So let's get started. A basic idea yesterday was to line out what is the factor that people can stay healthy even in tough situations. And all of this goes back to some studies out of the 50s when people ask themselves, like, how could it be that people who have a lot of problems or some kind of the same problems, one group is performing really well, is getting healthy, and the other ones just crash. And they focus on the people that really got that stuff done and stayed focused and stayed in a positive mood to make something out of their life, even they have really tough situations like having no parents any longer or being in a pretty crucial environment, or brutal even. So, referring to that, people researched and they found out people who have a perception that they can connect to people. There is somebody who's building some kind of a safe environment or some kind of a safe connection. These people are pretty much more likely to get through the crisis. And just let me put my papers here, because it helps me a bit. It was also about trust in yourself and positive attitudes. And you need to have somebody who's telling you how to do this, and who's showing you how to survive, and especially helping you to create some kind of self-confidence, like, you can do it, let's do it together. And that's the best version you can do. You create some flow, some fun, those things that are hard and really tough. Get a different vibe, so you get a different feeling to this, and that makes you stronger. That's why people who've been in our Hero's Journey training very often hear about, like, let's do it together. And this is a ritual, like bringing the positive energy, the practice again and again into play. Another thing I would like to mention is a very interesting study from Google. Because Google, most of you know it as one of the best performing companies in the world, was interested in what does make the difference between super good teams and other teams that perform less. And the major finding was it's about psychological safety. So do people feel like they can be their self, speak out loud, and do have some trust that they will be in a good connection with the other people, even if they are truly speaking what's going on. So if you bring this together with resilience, it's about the feeling like, I'm okay the way I am. I'm okay. I can be myself. I will survive. I will get it done. So it's this basic trust into yourself, and especially creating some attachment to other people, because people need these kind of connections, need to be in a group, need to be related to something. Which is a very interesting thing, because there's a difference between being alone and feeling alone. Which means I can be in a group and feel lonely, because I'm not really creating relationships, I'm not feeling attached to people. Or I can be totally alone for a lot of time, and a few moments I meet people, I feel super connected. Or I don't want to be with so much people every time, so I need this space for myself. Basic learning out of this, all the stress, all the crisis is pretty much about your perception. Because resilience very often is referred to dealing with stress and that stuff. Stress is what you create, what you feel about the situation. And pretty interesting, we're gonna get to this later, studies show that people are basically having a better life. There's less, there are less crimes, life is less brutal, more and more people have enough to eat. There are a lot of stuff that makes you more, or gives you in a more like objective way, a situation of safety and fulfillment of your needs. But people perceive it differently. People perceive they have no time. People perceive they are not safe. And that creates the stress, not the real situation, because there's nothing real. It's your perception of the situation, it's your expectations. And it's about like how much do you trust in yourself and the people around. This gets me into an old idea, which is pretty much related to the Catholic Church. Maybe you know the phrase ora et labora, which means basically pray and work. And if you look at the monks and the people who really live in a monastery, and people do this for hundreds of years, you will find that these people are productive and at the same time they take time for spiritual experiences. And that is what's behind this concept. It's not just about working, it's also about mindfulness, it's about paying attention, it's about getting yourself related to some kind of purpose, or other people would call it like create your connection to the bigger space, which Arthur Koestler calls the holon, or like the holocracy. In a nutshell, it's not just about working, it's about taking your time to meditate, to do yoga, to focus, and to reflect on what you really want. Because this meditation is not just for fun. It's helping yourself to find out what do I want, how do I get there, and be present and take time for you, which is a pretty old concept, but some people seem to forget it because we do things faster and faster and faster just to do it faster. It doesn't mean we are creating a better quality of life. That doesn't mean we are creating a better career path for ourselves. Very often it doesn't even mean that we are earning more money. It just means we are getting faster in something we don't need very often. One thing or one question you could ask yourself is like, what do I really want to accomplish and what for? So it's like, what is the outcome? Why do you do this? What is your contribution to like the bigger thing, to your family, to your society, to your spiritual life? And if we take this into account, I like very much the idea of Anselm Belgri, who was pretty long living in a monastery, but also being in an economic situation, and at the moment is coaching a lot of companies like Microsoft or BMW to create a different culture. And what he's referring to is like also the difference between, it's hard to talk about this in English, about rhythm and maybe you would call it beat, or like the mechanical version. So rhythm means it's like life. There's a wave, there's an up and down. There's like you go to sleep and you wake up. So there's a different speed in it. So you feel there's something that's more organic. But what we do very often at the moment is to cut things into little pieces. And we try to be faster at every little piece. So there's no wave anymore, there's just a straight line, or maybe a line like this, getting more and more and more. And no organism works like this. We all need to rest to perform better. And maybe even the question like, it's not just about performing in your work, it's also about performing in your life, achieving what you really want. And that's again the connection to our hero's journey, where we try to find out what is the thing you want, what are the things other people want, and how to talk about this like concept of genio, what's your vision, what's your mission, what's your ambition, what's your role, what resources do you bring, and find out where's the next move. And last but not least, I like to connect this to the ideas of Professor Hassler, who is doing a lot of studies about stress and how people deal with this. So he's basically doing this from a perspective out of medicine, because he tries to find out how people can be less depressive, how people who have real problems manage this crisis. And the very basic idea of this is not focusing all the time on the negative stuff, which media does at the moment, which most of the concepts we use are focusing on, like more like fear, because it's easier to measure, and we are more equal in terms of fear. But if you start focusing on the positive things, on things like flow, on things like happiness, on like how to create different stuff, you even see on a biochemical level that this will increase your ability of feeling happy. There will even be more cells in the area in your brain which is about your benefit system, which is like enabling learning, enabling performing, getting into things that are really creative. So basically the message is, the more fun you have, the better you perform and the more happy you are. Because all this fun, all this positive energy you perceive, you put your focus on, will get you the energy to perform, to get through the crisis, and to be more self-confident. Because you know you already did it. You know there's something that's helping you. You know there are people that trust in you. So, if you look and talk about resilience, maybe you can keep in mind 3 things. First, it's about the connections you have, the people you know, and the people you really rely on, especially in the way you perceive it. Second, it's about your self-confidence. It's about how you think you're gonna perform, how you think what will be the outcome. And the third thing is, let's do it. Do it, try out, make things happen instead of just waiting for something to happen. Yes? In the crisis, try to find a position, find a way to go step by step, make a move, like Agile calls it, a next adaptive move. I hope this was inspiring for you and you're interested in more of our videos, of our material. Just give us a call or let us know via email, Facebook, Instagram,